Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're taking a look at Gardevoir EX, which I actually already have done a video on, but I want to do an updated list now that we have seen the results from the IT Champions League, where a couple made top 8, and just tons upon tons of other local and city league results. Man, this list is going to be very similar to the IT list. It's going to be like 57 cards the same, but I've changed a couple things that I do like a little bit more than the IT list, and I'll explain those differences when we get to them. But this deck has been testing amazing. It feels very, very good into almost everything except Lost Box. Lost Box is the only kind of dodgy matchup. It's definitely winnable, and we also do have a couple cards that can try and help us in that matchup, but Lost Box is definitely going to be our worst matchup, and there are ways you can tech it out for it a little bit more than this. But this is kind of just like a generally just powerful list, and that's kind of what I want to display most of the time when I'm doing early deck profiles, is going to be just generally powerful lists. But let's just get started with this list, starting off with, of course, 4 Ralts. Now, this is the teleportation burst Ralts, and this is because of the 70 HP, and that is the main reason, because Sableye is extremely prominent in the next format. There are comfy decks all over the place. Having that 70 HP to protect yourself from a turn 2 Sableye, which is very, very real. Turn 2 Sableye is definitely something that can happen to you, and it will just destroy you if you're playing the 60 HP ones. The IG list did play 1 copy of the 60 HP one and 3 of the 70, but I just wanted to go on the 4 copies of the 70 HP one. That just seems like the most logical thing to me. And the teleportation burst isn't bad. Just being able to hit for 10 damage, which can be actually relevant setting up math sometimes. Then, in terms of our Kirlias, we have 4 copies of the Refinement Kirlia. And this is just such a powerful ability. Discard 1 in order to draw 2 cards. It's just phenomenal. We've seen it be so good on Zoroark GX, and it is going to be no different here. The attack is not really that good with Slap for 30, but the ability is just amazing, and it's really what's going to allow this deck to just kind of set up better than a lot of decks. If you're getting set up with this deck, you're going to be winning a lot of your games just because the sheer power of Gardevoir's ability and the different attackers it has access to. And we have 1 copy of the Mirage Step Kirlia. And this card is just really, really good. If you can pull this off, if you go first and can pull off the Mirage Step, you're in an incredible spot. Because just being able to get out, even if you are only able to get out 2 of your Kirlia, you're still in such an amazing spot, because being able to just flood your board with Pokemon that can evolve into Gardevoir to draw even more cards, and then Gardevoir EX, you get just so many energies. You're going to be having a really good time. So giving up up to 2 prizes you just give up at the beginning of the games, you can set up. Just because when you do set up, this deck is unstoppable. It is ridiculous. You just do so much damage with single prizers. It's kind of insane. And Mirage Step just helps you with that, setting up that much more. And then we have 2 copies of Gardevoir EX. And this is the insane ability that we have here. The Psychic Embrace, which is going to be allowing you to, as often as you elect during your turn, attach a basic Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your Psychic Pokemon, and then put 2 damage counters on the Pokemon, which will allow you to accelerate to itself, and you actually use the attacker, which is kind of decent. It's got the Miracle Force for 190 for 3 energy, remove all special conditions, which is decent, but it's definitely not the attack you're going to be going for a lot of the time. It can be decent versus knocking out UVs and Lumineons. Single Prize Pokemon can be decent just because the HP is just ginormous, 310 HP. But it's mainly here just to sit on the bench, actually, and just use the ability to power up your main attacker, which is actually going to be the Gardevoir from Chilling Reign. This is going to be the Shining Arcana one. That's right. This is your main attacker, and it's kind of cool to see what I feel like is a top deck of the format utilizing a stage 2 single prizer as a main attacker, which is really, really cool to see. And this card just has so much going for it. It's got the ability Shining Arcana, which lets you once in your turn look at the top 2 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy cards you find to your Pokemon, and then put the remaining cards in your hand. So at the very worst, this card just says draw 2, which we already played 3 Kirlias, and I literally just gushed about how good that Kirlia's ability is, and that one forces you to discard a card from your hand, which can be good for getting Psychic Energy in the discard pile. But once you have the Psychic Energy in the discard pile and you're cycling through it with the Psychic Embrace, Shining Arcana just saying draw 2 at the very worst is really, really good. And also allowing you to have extra energies is actually relevant because Gardevoir, the baby Gardevoir here, actually only has 140 HP, which means maximum we can attach 6 energies to our Gardevoir with our Gardevoir EX. And that is a little bit unfortunate. That is a little bit less than most HPs from the Sword, or most HP. It's less HP than most Stage 2s from the Sword and Shield era, but it does kind of put a limit on this card. You're going to be able to hit minimum 180 or maximum 180 damage with solely using Psychic Embrace, and that's where the Shining Arcana, getting those extra energy attachments, is really good. Is that you're able to essentially attach more free energies that don't do damage to the Gardevoir onto the Gardevoir, so you can hit more damage in combination with turn attachments. Brainwave, which is the attack here for 3 colorless energy, which deals 60 damage and 30 more for each psychic energy onto it, is going to be hitting some serious numbers on like turn 3 onward. Just in the combination of turn attachments, the attachments you get here and there from Shining Arcana, and of course Gardevoir's ability. And there is a pretty cool combo you actually can do with Emergency Jelly to get even more like quote unquote free energy. When I say free energy, I'm just saying like energy that doesn't make your Gardevoir take damage, which is going to be with the Emergency Jelly, and I will get to that card when we go around to the tools. But this card is just bonkers. The only thing that this card kind of limits this card is the HP, and everything else is just insane. This card is really strong. And then another one of our attackers is going to be the Zacian V, which has the Roller Sword ability, which allows you to search your deck for a psychic energy, attach it to one of your Pokemon, and your turn ends. Which actually we don't use that often. It's like very niche. This guy is definitely not a Pokemon we want to have down in the early turns to actually use that ability when it is the best. Roller Sword is the best in the early turns. We don't really want to have Zacian down on the early turns. And it's here only for its attack, which is actually the exact same as Gardevoir's. It does 60 damage plus 30 more for each psychic energy attached to its Pokemon. Which you might be, well, we already played 3 Gardevoirs, why are you playing Zacian? And I mentioned that Gardevoir's only limit is its HP of 140, well, Zacian comes with 220 HP. So not only is it a basic you can just bench it out of nowhere, accelerate a ton to, and then smack, you can also, you're not limited by any HP usually. If you just turn attach, with a turn attachment, you can attach a maximum 10 energy to Zacian, which is going to be plenty to take a knockout. Whenever you're looking to take a knockout on, Storm Slash will get you there with that extra HP, so you're not going to have to like muck around with extra Shining Arcana attachments, which is really, really good. Then we have one copy of Radiant Greninja, which is just insane in this deck because you want Psychic Energy discard pile, and Radiant Greninja does exactly that. So discard a Psychic Energy, its ability, conceal cards, discard a card, an energy card. Jeez, it took me 3 tries. Discard an energy card from your hand in order to draw 2 cards. This is just extra dig. When you have like 2 Kirlias set up in a Greninja, and you use those 2 Kirlias and a Greninja, and you evolve those Kirlias into Gardevoirs, you Shining Arcana, it's like there's some games where you play like 2 supporters the whole game just because you have so much draw on that Greninja. It's just another enabler of that. A basic Pokemon that allows you to draw 2 is bonkers, especially when we desperately want Psychic Energy in our discard pile. Conceal cards is really, really good. Then we have one copy of Mew. And this is obviously a card that I could see you bumping up to 2 copies just because the ability is really good. Mysterious Tail, looking at the top 6, good grabbing item card there. Is really strong for helping you find rare candies when you need them. It can find you your VIP passes in the early turns. And it's just a really good guy to just like attach or treat a Ralts that you started into a Mew. Use the ability to just try and help you. Help yourself set up that little bit more. Really, really good card. The attack is not bad. The attack is bad, but the ability is really what it's here for. We can just stick in the active and get ourselves an extra couple cards. Then we have one copy of Manaphy, which is pretty obvious, protecting our Kirlias. We kind of want to have at least 1 Kirlia on the bench, just drawing 2 every turn for most of the game, before we usually are just going to evolve into a Gardevoir to finish the game off. So we want to be able to protect this Pokemon. I mentioned that Lost Box is this deck's worst matchup, and Manaphy helps you protect your low HP Pokemon while they're vulnerable from my Greninja. Then we're going into our supporters. We're running 2 copies of Judge, and this is one of the things I changed from my list and the IG list. IG list played 3 Judge. I actually played 2 Judge and a Research instead. That's just kind of personal preference, honestly. I'd rather have, in this stage 2 deck, sometimes I'm really feeling like I need that just extra dig, just like, I don't even care. Like, I'm going to lose this game if I don't draw this turn. So having that Research to just dump and get an entirely new 7-card hand, something that I felt like could be kind of needed sometimes. That's why I have the 2 Judge and 1 Research split. And don't get me wrong, Judge is still an extremely strong card. but research is just can be a little bit stronger in some scenarios. Then we have a kind of weird card, and that's one copy of Worker. And you might be like, that card's terrible. Why are you playing it? Well, let me explain to you. And this card, once you hear it, you'll probably be thinking that this card is pretty decent. So Worker says draw 3 and discards a stadium in play, which is at face value just a hop with a tiny extra effect. It's like, meh. It's like, why would you play this? It's so bad. But Path is a pretty good card against this deck because it just completely shuts off Greninja, shuts off Psychic Embrace, obviously the main one. And having a supporter card that and just discard that stadium card is pretty good. Draw 3, as like funny as it might sound, is actually not that bad of an effect in this deck because of just the draw power we need with Kirlia. There's plenty of times where I just play the Worker just to draw 3. There's not even a stadium I want to discard. I just play it just to draw 3, and I'm quite content with just drawing 3 with this deck sometimes, which just goes to show the power of the Kirlia and the Gardevoir Greninja draw engine. And it's mainly here as a draw 3 when you want it, and if you have it left in your deck, is pretty good versus Path. And we have one copy of a new supporter, Arven, which searches your deck for a item card and a tool card. There was the errata that made tool cards specifically their own category. They're no longer item cards with a little box on them that says they're a tool. Now they are now their own category of category called tools. So now there are item cards, tool cards, stadium cards, etc. And Arven gets a item card, which cannot be a tool once again, but it also gets yourself that tool card as well. This will help you find the Sky Seal Stone we do play in the deck to use onto our Zacian when the point that we might need it. It allows us to find Emergency Jelly, which I mentioned is in the list, which is pretty good in a couple scenarios. And just that item card slot, which can be a number of things. It can be a level ball to get a Kirlia, it can be a rare candy to get a Gardevoir out. There's a lot of different options for this Arven, and it's a nice, decent one up here. Then we have one copy of Klara, which the original list did play the one Klara and one Miriam. I have cut the Miriam for a Roxanne, but we still have the one Klara in here. Just because getting back Pokemon is going to be needed when you are playing a stage 2 deck like this. And actually, you might also think that I'm never going to be using the effect to get 2 energies. You actually do use it to get 2 energies these amount of the time, because not only does it get yourself back to Pokemon, but the energies, if you just get both of them back, you get Greninja 1 away, so it draws you 2. And you also can keep 1 for turn attachment. So sometimes it's Klara just says, get back 2 Pokemon, draw 2 cards, and turn attach, which is a bonkers supporter. If there was a supporter that said draw 2, get back 2 Pokemon, and search your deck for a basic energy, you would play it for sure. And Klara essentially does that if you have Greninja in play, which is just super strong. This card is just really, really good, and I find myself using it, honestly, almost every single game. We have our Gusting, which is going to consist of 1 Serena and 1 Boss. Nothing really else to say here. These are the 2 strongest Gust cards. And then, like I mentioned, we do have that 1 copy of Roxanne, which was in the IG list, which I was real surprised. Like I mentioned, you're kind of giving up prizes in the early game sometimes. And so having that Roxanne to kind of just like add insult to energy injury once your deck fully sets up, just seems way too good to pass up. And Roxanne's just really good. I've been testing this deck against Mew. Sometimes if Mew's trying to path you, you can just Roxanne them and stick them with their own path, which is kind of hilarious. Roxanne's just unbelievably strong card. Then we're going to have our stadiums, which are going to be 2 copies of Temple of Sinnoh. And this is another thing different about my list and the IG list. The IG list did play the 1 Temple of Sinnoh, as well as the 1 Collapse Stadium. We're still playing the Collapse Stadium. But we're running the 2 Temple of Sinnoh just because this card is really, really good versus Lugia. And it could just be an annoyance versus double turbo decks like Mew, things like that. And like I mentioned, alongside the Worker, having that extra stadium in the second Temple of Sinnoh is just really solid. Like, we don't play any special energy, so at worst, Temple of Sinnoh just says like no more path 3, which is pretty decent. Collapse Stadium is here as a little bit of a remedy towards Lost Box. Maybe you can go up attack with the Gardevoir. And if you're able to set up a second Gardevoir EX, you can discard the first Gardevoir EX, essentially just deny them damage, which is pretty nice. And then this card has some other uses, like it's, once again, really annoying versus Mew. It can be annoying versus Lugia if you hit it early. Yeah, both these stadiums are just really, really annoying and strong effects, because there isn't really a stadium we want to play in this deck all too badly. Then we have item cards, which is going to be 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass and 4 copies of Level Ball. And these are just like really good aggressive cards. Level Ball allowing you to get out your Kirlia to draw is super duper strong as well as finding your Ralts. And the VIP Pass, getting out like 3+ Ralts on turn 1 is not too uncommon with the super good basic search we have with the 4 Battle VIP Pass, 4 Level Ball, and 3 Fog Crystal. And this is something that was played in the IG list. The IG list did play 3 Fog Crystal, and on my list of Guardia I was playing before IG, I did still have the 3 Fog Crystal in. And at first, when I was looking through Japanese lists, I was like, why? Or like a couple months ago when the set first came out, I was looking through Japanese Gardevoir lists. I was like, why are some of these decks only playing 3 Fog Crystal? And after playing with the deck, I now understand. It's because you have 4 VIP, 4 Level Ball, and a copy of Mew. You're not going to be starting for basics too often. And your energies, you could just usually just naturally draw into them with the sheer just draw power that your deck has in the Kirlia, the Greninja, and the Gardevoir. But with the things that Fog Crystal help you find, you already have generally pretty strong ways of getting out already. But Fog Crystal nonetheless still a good card. But we are going to be able to cut that one or just one of the Fog Crystals because sometimes it's like late game, it's not a very good card that we don't really want to see. But it's still undeniably a strong card. In the early games, we're going to still be playing those 3 copies. Next, we have got Rare Candy, which there are 3 copies of. And this is a bit more aggressive than most Gardevoir lists up until this point. The IG list played the 3 Rare Candies. And I really like this with the Mew. It allows you to turbo out a Gardevoir EX and get attacking with a Gardevoir EX on turn 2. Sometimes if that's what your game calls for. But Rare Candy is just a strong card, and being able to candy a Ralts straight into a Gardevoir, if you're out of Kirlia, it's just candy straight into Gardevoir. It's really, really good. And like I mentioned with the Mirage deck, being able to get out multiple Kirlias, you're going to have all these extra Ralts that just can't evolve in the Kirlias simply because you have all your Kirlias in place. So being able to Rare Candy those ones, skip the Kirlia because you don't have any more anyway, into more Gardevoirs is really, really strong. And then we have 2 copies of Ultra Ball, which is just, this discards just strong. It discards cards from your hand, which is, of course, really synergistic with the Gardevoir that we want to get energies since Gardevoir for Gardevoir EX. And it's the only way in our deck of actually searching out Gardevoir EX and Gardevoir. And we do desperately need search cards because there's 2 of the best cards in our deck. Lastly, 1 copy of Palpad, because the assortment of 1-of supporters in our deck, we want to be able to reuse them. And Palpad can get them right back. Then we have our tools, which are going to be 2 copies of Emergency Jelly. I've mentioned this the episode before. And this card has a couple applications. The first one is that if you attach 6 energy to a Gardevoir, it will deal 120 damage to it, leaving with just 20 HP. That makes it extremely vulnerable to a Sableye. Sableye just being able to pick off a single prize for 20 damage is really, really strong for the Lost Box deck. So having this that you can attach to a Gardevoir to completely heal it after you attach 6 energies to it against the Lost Box decks makes that matchup a lot more manageable because it makes your single prize Gardevoir a little bit more tanky and actually able to take multiple prizes, which is what you're going to need against a single prize deck, is a single prize that you're taking multiple single prize knockouts, which the Jelly allows you to heal the Gardevoir and do exactly that. Additionally, if something really cool that I found that you could do just when I was playing this deck is if you would actually attach the Emergency Jelly to a Ralts or to a Kirlia and accelerate like 3 energies onto it, dealing 60 to it, and then attack with another attacker, it will actually heal the damage just because it only has 80 HP or 70 HP when it's the Ralts or the Kirlia. Which means that you can essentially, if you attach it then, you can get like 3 energies onto it for no damage because the Emergency Jelly heals it, essentially for free, which will allow you to attach even more energies onto it when it evolves into Gardevoir, which is a really cool interaction, and I think that's actually what makes me want to keep the card in this list is just because first I was like, I don't know about this card, it's only good versus Lost Box, but because of that ability to get a couple of extra energies onto a Kirlia or Ralts with it is stayed the list for me. Then I mentioned we have 1 copy of Sky Steelstone, which is just insanely good card versus Zacian, when Zacian's almost always taking a 1-shot for putting it into play. This is good versus Mew, versus Giratina, versus Lugia. It's just good versus everything. And one of the main kind of things that's holding back this card is that the ability to find it can be kind of annoying. The only kind of places we've seen it been applied so far in Standard is with Lost Zone decks, which has tons of dig in the form of colors and flower selecting. Vegan decks, which slow down your opponent, which gives you more time to find it. And is there another one? I think there's another one I'm forgetting. Anyway, the reason we have this one is because we have so much draw power in Kirlia and Gardevoir, similar to how Lost Zone decks have Colress and Comfy. We also have Arven to search it out as well, so that's just kind of like an additional out to it if we do need it. It's just a one-card tech that can just completely swing matchups and games for us, so definitely has a lot of value. Then we have rounding it out with 11 Psychic Energy. This list has been, or at least like a list similar to this one, I've been playing around with recently, and they have been doing extremely well. I'm a really big fan of the deck. It feels like I'm actually playing like a 2017 deck a little bit, with how like the stage 2's cards in the deck interacts, at least with itself, how it interacts with itself. It feels a lot like a kind of your classic stage 2 deck, or at least from the stage 2 decks I have played, it feels very similar to that, which I'm a big fan of because I completely missed. I actually was not playing in like 2017 or 2016 when the stage 2 decks were like really prominent. So I kind of missed that. So it's kind of nice to have this. And I've just been playing a ton with this deck. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm a really big fan of it. And this is the general list I've been playing around with. Let me know what you think of it. This has kind of been a longer video, I think, but that is okay. I've been talking a lot about this deck. I'm a fan of it. Yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. If you guys liked it, don't leave a like. If you guys want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. I do videos like this all the time. Yeah, that's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one.